is joining us, Andy, a sports agent at Sky. Andrew, Sky, thanks very much for joining us, mate. How are you this morning?
Morning, guys.
Good morning, Sky.
Sky, I was going to ask you, mate, first of all, what do you think of the whole situation? Is this just something that's a modern day thing? Are we going to see more of this with players, particularly younger players, having their say on social media?
Well, it's not necessarily players having a say on social media. It's more that this stuff should just be kept behind closed doors. In a situation where a manager goes up against a player, there's only one winner. And so it's very difficult for players to know what's going on behind the scenes and to not say something. But once a player goes public, then the manager feels compelled to then deal with it in their way. So I think it's an unfortunate situation, but anything that happens behind the scenes should stay behind the scenes, and that's the manager's call. If a player comes out first and starts talking about a manager, then that's a bad sign. But for a manager to throw a player under a bus, and then for the player to feel that he needs to come out and say it's not true, then wow, man, that's a dynamite situation.
Sky, are there strict guidelines in the contracts nowadays with regards to social media? I mean, I would have thought that there are, and I would have thought you've got to be very careful about criticising those within your organisation, etc.
Yeah, there are clauses in contracts now that basically say about a player's conduct and what they say publicly, but this is tinged with irony because this is more about what the manager has said publicly. So I wonder if he's got it in his contract that he's not allowed to say things derogatory about players.
Well, but was it that bad, Sky?
That's
really?
my point, Sky. I mean, are we seriously thinking what he said was effectively that he didn't impress him enough in training to be in the squad? Is that bad, really?
Well, it is really, Ali, because what that says is that it leaves the public thinking, and not only the public, football's big business and it's a small world. People then start to think that the player's not professional or he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing in training. So football is universally very similar. So players get selected on how they train, their professionalism, their attitude. And the player's been outed publicly to say that he's not doing what he needs to do. Now, any player that doesn't train well or doesn't adhere to what a coach wants is not going to play. So that doesn't bode well for him if he ever wanted to leave.
Yeah.
That, it's easy to get a reputation and it's hard to lose it. So regardless of what anyone says, that reputation is now with him, that he doesn't train properly.
So if I could ask you then, Sky, where does this leave Erik ten Hag, for example, right? If he's at a press conference and he's asked the question, why is Jadon Sancho not in the squad? Surely he's got to give a truthful answer.
Well, people could say that something's been lost in translation and all that kind of stuff. But I think the manager knew exactly what he was saying, and that is turning out to be his style. In his eyes, he's just being honest. But football isn't necessarily about people being honest. It's about thinking something and saying something else and playing that political game. Because a manager wants the players to be on their side. And the way in which they do that is by protecting the players and refusing to out the players in any negative way. But now he's done that. That isn't just going to affect Sancho. That's going to affect the other players in the team. The other players now are going to say, he outed Sancho, he could be outing me. And the school of thought could be, but that's not good. Yeah. That's not good for team spirit.
Sky, so if he was a client of yours, I'm assuming he's not a client of yours, Jadon Sancho. If he was your client, so you would have encouraged him to have posted that tweet?
No. If it was my client, I would advise the client to sort it out internally, because you can't win against the manager. If you go up against the manager and the manager plays you, then that means that the manager's back down.
Yeah.
So you can't go public. You got to go internal. You got to ask for a meeting and you sit down and you flush it out. You two know a lot of stuff goes on in football. Fights, arguments, all sorts go on behind the scenes, and they never come out. In some ways, that's not being truthful with the fans, but people are always playing this political game.
Sky, brilliant. Mate, we're going to have to go.
Thank you,
running out of
Sky.
time, but really appreciate you taking the time to come on, Sky. That was fantastic, mate.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.